Hey, hey, hey. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. Oh, Lord. I'm glad y'all here. I was very interesting because yesterday I had like the worst attitude, but I knew it. And because I knew it, I probably shouldn't have even gone to any meetings or taken any calls. But I think I was doing that thing that I'd always done, used my mind to try to work me out of how I was feeling. I've grown up in the church my entire life, and um, most of the time I've been taught to that, if I feel a certain way, that it's something going on in my heart, like probably even the devil, that God is in the miracle working business, that I'm blessed, that there ain't no reason to have an attitude, that there are plenty of things to be grateful for. Um, And then at the end of I think I had like 3 calls and then a meeting. And when I was driving home from the meeting, what I realized was I'm pretty pissed off about what happened to Marcellus Williams. Um, I don't know the man, but he represents that any one of us can be in a situation where someone can say we did something, and it's really hard to prove that you did not do something. And I was mad about that, but I had not spent any time thinking about it. In fact, I had a pain in my chest, which is typically an indication of anxiety. I completely ignored it. I completely ignored it, didn't pay no attention to it. So that had happened. I, yeah, many of you know I lost my brother, um, and his birthday had just passed. I think I pretty much kind of pushed right through that. And then my dog died. So Coltrane was 15 years old. He had glaucoma. He had a bum knee. He could barely hear anymore. He certainly couldn't jump. Um, and then yesterday morning, he started having seizures. My natural way, it is the thing that has been there to protect me and serve me forever, is to just be like, all right, well, I know what I got to do. And you just got to do what you got to do. In fact, I was talking to a girlfriend yesterday whose grandpa just died. It's her last living grandparent. Both her parents are died. And one of the things that she said to me when I saw her on FaceTime was, we do what we got to do. We do what we got to do. And tomorrow I am talking at doing the opening inspiration for Black Women Get Fit. And it is one of the most common terms I've ever heard from Black women. That is, we do what we have to do. But I was introduced in 2023 to a tool called Ruler, and I forgot about it, honestly, in the moment when I need it the most. But let me just say first, the one thing you should do when you know you got an attitude is don't take the microphone. So in that meeting, while I was frustrated about many things, and I was probably mumbling around my breath, I did not take the microphone and take up space to blow my stuff through other people. So that's tip number one. But tip number two is to try to remember ruler, and I didn't remember ruler until later in the day. And ruler stands for recognize your emotion, because when Mr. Marcellus was actually murdered, I am certain that I had Bible study like 45 minutes later. And I spent no time recognizing that I had feelings about the fact that any one of us, somebody can say we did something. They can have no DNA evidence. The prosecutor can say they made a mistake. And I am not of the position that he should not have been murdered. I am of the position that he should never have been in jail for 25 years. And I spent no time recognizing that I had feelings about that. And then understanding, that's the you in ruler, understanding that it makes total sense that I would concern myself about this. It's in my lovely state. This is the governor for whom I did not vote for. Um, the justices who could have been like the last ditch effort are not justices that a president I voted for picked. And I know Trisha Rojo Bushnell, and I know how hard she and the Innocence Project work. And I can only imagine what that cost her in terms of her personal life to try to save this man, and it just still doesn't happen, and contrast that. So recognize, yeah, I do feel something about this, and then you understanding why I feel something about it. And then three, the L in ruler is to label. A thought that's in your head cannot be worked. Like, it just, you start to get spaghetti brain and you just get stuck in there. So you got to like get it out on paper. That's why journaling is helpful. And so I didn't recognize, understand, label, or express. I went right on to Bible study. I wrote an article, but in the article, I wasn't dealing with any of my emotion. It was all logic. I have been trained to dig into logic, reason, think my way out of things. So then, on top of not recognizing, understanding, labeling, I tried to express it, right? But what I was doing more than anything else was regulating. I had someone else in my space who was suffering, and I'm trying to make space for them. And so I am just regulating, and suppressed emotions never die. They always come out, but it's always ugly. They're always ugly. So that was Tuesday. Then Wednesday, I was pretty much working all day, late into the evening, even. And then Thursday morning, I learned that Coltrane is now. I didn't even want Coltrane. I remember when David Clark gave me that dog, he was trying to be a jerk. He got Khalid that dog, and it, it wasn't that Khalid was not responsible. He was just young, so which meant that was going to be my dog. And I had asked for a strand of black pearls. I still don't have a strand of black pearls. And what I got instead was a dog. And so John Coltrane wrote a song, or had an album called Black Pearl. And so that's how Coltrane got his name. But for 15 years, it didn't matter what I was like or what was going on in the world, that dog loved me. And I didn't spend any time recognizing, understanding, labeling, or expressing how I felt about that. I'm the one who has to take the dog to get euthanized, right? So I get there. They do a fantastic job. They've got a private room for me. And all of a sudden, that's when the tears start to flow. And I start thinking about everything that's going on in my life, all of the people who I hold space for. Um, every week, going to this homicide meeting. And as you can imagine, there are many people in this who care about homicides in Kansas City, who just bring their own trauma to the space, including me. And then there are also people who just feel the need to credential. We got to spend 10 minutes talking about who you are and what you've done and how you were at the beginning, and how you are the one who needs funding. Meanwhile, Securus Technologies makes $500 million a year more. I think it's actually 700 million dollars a year, or something like that. And you got nonprofits fighting over 10 grand instead of working together. People being concerned about who told them what, like, just so territorial. And I can be territorial about things. Um, but all of that together, and then no matter what work you do around trying to reduce homicides, there's always going to be somebody who's just like, these black people today and these lack of fathers. Man, that ain't it. That is not it. And I can tell you that if reducing homicides were simple, it wouldn't be as high as it is. But I can also say that if you go to any safe community in this country, there's some very specific things they have. You don't have to look at no people. You can look at what is available in the space. And then you start to see that, are we, or at least asking, are we systemically trying to create these murder centers? Yeah, Dr. Berry, the acronym is ruler, and that's correct. And it is from the work of what is his name? Dr. Mark Brackett. So if you want to know more about it, um, yeah. So he goes into great detail about why it works. But I wasn't eating my own cooking this week, so that's why I had like pure full on like I was like, I got an attitude. In fact, somebody was talking to me and I was like, look, I got an attitude today. Like, just don't let's not let I have an attitude. I'm so excited about this comedy show that I'm going to do on October 18th. If you are interested, let me know so I can send you the link so you can come. It's here in Kansas City. They are not streaming it. Don't ask. It's in person. They only got like 80 seats. So if you're not coming, don't play with the seats. Um, and Tisha, you're right. There ain't no surveillance really in safe areas. If it is so hidden you can't see it. You definitely see all of these oh, I got you. That everybody has like their own security cameras. Also, I will notice, I will say there was a woman who stole my mail in 2020 and she was caught by the police. And I think it was made possible because somebody probably called and said, "Hey, we see a strange car outside." Like you and now that has worked in my favor and it has worked against me, right? Um, but I'll say that surveillance is probably one. I mean, you're right, Tisha. It's not even one of the ones I thought about. I'm thinking like grocery stores. I can walk to one, two, three, four grocery stores. I can walk to 4 grocery stores. If I wanted to lo if I and not convenience stores, bodegas. Mm-mm. If we wanted to add that kind of thing, I got way more food around me. I mean, curbs and easements are tended to. There's a street about a half a mile away from my house, and they're doing some construction and the street's in bad shape. My neighborhood Facebook group is like people are beside themselves. Y'all need to get out here and fix it. And I know these people calling the city every day, but like curves and easements, we know that urban centers are like hot spots in the summer because there's not many trees. You'll If you want to talk about what's a good school or a bad school, you don't have to see any teachers, you don't have to see any parents, you don't have to talk to anybody. You can just go look at the building and I can tell you a good school from a bad school. And so it's like, I don't know why I keep showing up because empathy is such a it's a foundational piece of this, but such a small piece of this 10-point plan of what we're trying to do. And thank you, uh, author, for your condolences about little Coltrane. He was on his last leg, honey. It was the best thing for him. But see, even I went right to logic instead of just look. This is sad. This is complicated. I feel a greater sense of loneliness, whatever. But you just got to recognize, understand, label, and then find a way to express. You ain't got to get on a social media platform and tell people like I'm choosing to do right now. But you got to write it down. You got to tell somebody. So yesterday, I just sat at the counter in the middle of the day and just had me a good old cry. And thank God my friend Tanisha called me in the middle of the and FaceTime me too, by the way. And you know, she ain't much for FaceTime. And I did not, shy away from it. This is my friend, right? Like, why, if you can't cry in front of your friends, who can't cry in front of? And now I'm better. I don't have no attitude today. And so Mark Brackett's method works. And literally it is, there's this thing called the mood meter. Since we're here, I'll try to see if I can pull it up for y'all. Um, it's really simple. The key is to remember it because, like I told you yesterday, I forgot, honey. I was just like, I got attitude. I don't know why I got one. Um, but if you Google mood meter, this is what it looks like. And you can every day, multiple times a day, if you want to be preventative, you can decide that you're going to, excuse me, just check your mood all the time. Or what you could choose to do is when you notice that you're off, you can go here and say, okay, what is really going on? So if I think about everything that happened with Mr. Marcellus Williams, I was enraged. Like I was all of these troubled, all of these disgusted, like pessimistic, like drained, apathy. I mean, I was like all over here, right? And when I think about what happened with Coltrane, I was sad, disheartened, I said lonely, exhausted. There's a lot going on. Spent. So once you recognize, understand, and then label, this mood meter can help you kind of label, how you're feeling or whatever. And it's something that my therapist introduced me to. They try to have children do this in schools so that you can learn this earlier in life, because many times I feel like I'm just happy, mad, sad, chill. Like I would just label these as four emotions. Like I was pretty emotionally immature. I didn't This is 100 emotions, and there's a difference between ecstatic and exhilarated, or ecstatic and surprised, or ecstatic and, proud. And so it's just helpful to help you label your actual feelings. And then the idea is that once you've labeled them and expressed them, then you can regulate. But most of the time, I'm gonna say, and I think this is true for everyone, but this is especially true for Black women. We have been conditioned to push all of that down and just do what we got to do. And if the larger society is representative of what I'm putting out into the world myself, that whole do we got to do attitude comes in, starts to look like aggression, starts to look like rudeness, starts to look sharp. But I will defend that sometimes I have recognized, understood, labeled, and expressed, regulated, and I'm still gonna roar though. Self acceptance is recognizing also this idea that emotional intelligence is quiet. Emotional intelligence is always measured, that emotional intelligence is always um, without irritation. No, some stuff needs a roar. Because yesterday, when someone said to me, people ain't talk enough about Williams, I was like, there were over 1 million signatures, years of work. I, mm, I was like, huh. Sometimes we got to roar, man. Sometimes we have got to roar. Got to roar. Look at you, Dr. Barry. Yep, stuck in logic. Hmm. I bought some cards that were made, and when I say bought, I mean last year. So I'm almost 50. I bought some cards that are designed for an 8-year-old to help me really just try to get more emotionally in tune. It's I think we all have an opportunity to choose where we want to live, but I think what we also have a responsibility to is to shift the narrative. Um There's no way I can do that when I have an attitude, when I am not regulated. But this idea of scarcity mentality, that the money that we're trying to go after is a pie and there's not enough. I don't know about that when Securus is making $700 million a year off of putting people in jail. I don't know about that. I don't know about that when the city understands how to address homelessness, but yet we keep just arresting homeless people. I don't know about that, right? I don't know that the best thing to do is to label people as suffering from learned helplessness and that they have just given up. I don't know if that's the best thing to do, because what I have come to observe is that everybody can't get on the bridge at the same time. And sometimes we have to make the bridge wide enough for more people to get on, because hatefulness has a wide bridge. Scarcity mentality has a wide bridge. Individuality and me and my stuff, that has a wide bridge. Not only are people who are community minded, do we have a narrow bridge? You know, you mess up one time, we like, you got to get off. We don't do a good job of letting people back on. We don't do a good job of letting people back on. When you have been out of the fray, or didn't believe in what we were doing, or couldn't didn't participate, I'm like, don't be trying to come back later. Well, here's what I know now. Sometimes we don't get off the bridge because we mess up. Sometimes we get off the bridge because we have a bad attitude. And we take a moment, we skip the meeting, we recognize, understand, label, and express our emotions so that we can come back to the meeting the next week regulated and ready to work. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. We got work to do.